Hi there, I'm Kevin Benedict, Enterprise Mobility Analyst, reporting all week from Sydney, Australia. And I have with me Gerry Newton from Coateshire. Gerry, I just sat through a presentation that was fascinating. Your guys work in the outback in some of the most rugged conditions I've ever heard of. Why don't you share with our audience today some of those conditions that your team is working in and what the value of mobility is to them?
Yeah, for sure. It's a very unique outback that we have here. Our sites are quite large. One particular site, Fortescue Metals, which is one of our big up-and-coming mining companies here, they have an area of about 75,000 kilometres that they maintain, and they've got 3 mine sites within that. On that site alone, we've got about 5,000 assets.
And what do you mean by assets?
Oh, look, it's quite diverse, but probably the biggest group we have is lighting towers. These sites are in the middle of nowhere. The nearest towns are 4 to 6 hours drive away. So we've got to put lighting up so people can see what they're doing and what they're working on. And they work 24/7, these guys, on rotating shifts. So they're there non-stop, day in, day out. Most of them fly in and fly out. They camp on site. They have a camp set up there. Probably one of the hardest things to deal with is the heat. This particular site, 55 degrees Celsius in summer. Middle of winter, I was there a couple of months back, which is our winter, and it was about 38 degrees Celsius in the middle of winter. And then you've got the dust, and the dust is bad. It's very sticky, and it sticks to everything.
And so what kind of mobile solutions are you deploying in those areas, and why?
Well, one of our biggest problems is knowing where our guys are and knowing where to send them next, particularly with breakdowns and emergency calls from our customers. And until recently, we basically had no visibility at all. We knew which site our guys were on, but we didn't know where or what they were doing or whether they'd finished or whether they were at lunch. So not just from a work aspect, but from a safety aspect as well. It was a pretty serious concern for us. So what we've done is we've rolled out some tools or a solution that's allowed us to track where our guys are. We've modified the systems we bought to run on satellite. Because a lot of these sites don't have GPS communications, so they'll run SAT. That means we're online 24/7. The tool also allows us the ability to send them work and receive work from them. So we can now track what they're doing, where they are, whether they're working on a job or even if they're at lunch. They can create their own jobs. Their paperwork, they basically don't have any. They keep everything straight in the system. That was one of our biggest selling points to the team. They spend a lot of time doing paperwork, and again, you're talking hot, dusty. You don't want to be standing in 50-degree heat trying to write on a piece of paper on your bonnet that's covered in red dust and the pen doesn't work. They get back in their vehicle, they start it up, they put the air conditioning on, they sit back and relax, and they just punch the details on the touchscreen. It's all very simple.
So is that dangerous? So it sounds like there's probably a lot of danger out there in those remote areas.
Yeah, you've got to be very careful.
What are some of the, do you have any good stories on some of the most dangerous environments?
Two of the things you watch out for are snakes and big trucks.
Okay.
Particularly at night, you'd never park on the road. If you're working at night, you go at least sort of 10 feet off the road. So the big dump trucks can't see you and they run over you, and we've lost a few service vehicles around the areas where the guys haven't been in them.
Okay.
But the truck will just go past and drive over it. And you're talking the biggest dump trucks that money can buy, sort of thing. They got 70, 80 ton of raw iron ore in the back. 150 ton of truck. To them, it's a speed hump.
Yeah.
To us, it's a $60,000 vehicle. It's got $20,000 worth of tools in it, but it's gone like that. They come out about a foot off the ground.
Wow. So is there a lot of snakes out there?
There is a lot of snakes, yeah. And we've got a few poisonous ones here, like brown, especially the king brown. They're actually aggressive. So if you go near one, they'll attack you. One bite, you're dead. So you've got to watch out for those ones. Blacks, red-bellied black snakes, probably one of the more common ones. But they're not so bad. They're a bit timid, so if you make a bit of noise, they'll run.
Okay.
But you think you're in the middle of nowhere, you go out to a lighting tower that's been parked on the corner of a road at the back of the mine site, and there's not a lot of people around. It's nice and quiet. It's shaded under the lighting tower. There's sort of a 6 foot by 4 foot trailer with an engine on it. So a very nice spot for a sleep if you're a snake. So you've got to be particularly careful with that. And if it hasn't been used for a while, we have had the odd asset where they'll open the side cover to the engine bay and there's one living.
Oh my!
In there, and so you've got to be a bit careful with things like that.
So you were saying that everybody's required to carry sat phones?
Yes, it's mandatory out there. The mines do put up communications towers, but they're basically GSM, and they're usually pretty restricted. Like they might go 50 to 100 metres around where the tower is. It costs them a lot of money just to do that. But they usually do that with their campers. So when the guys aren't working, they've got their, they work 12 on, 12 hours off. So when they're on their 12 hours off, they can email their wife or make a phone call or send some photos to the kids.
Yeah.
Using that GSM network. That's really what it's there for. It's not actually there for conducting business.
Okay, so how long have you had the mobile applications?
Actually, they're fairly new for us.
Okay.
We ran the pilot sort of mid-year, and we've just sort of rolled out through that area quite recently. In fact, there's still 2 sites we haven't done yet, so it's very, very new for our people.
So what was the key motivation for you guys to deploy these mobile apps?
We've got a strategy in place at the moment that basically says over the next 5 years we want to A, go paperless, B, streamline our systems and processes to get some standardised practices in place.
Okay.
A little bit disjointed around the company.
Yeah.
Mainly how the business was put together. It was a merger between 2 very big companies.
Okay.
So, it's almost like a train smash when they go together.
Mm-hmm.
But we also want to work on efficiencies and productivity and improving our data and analysing what we do and how we do it and looking to benchmark some practices and make some improvements. So it's all tied around this whole strategy. But for me, being a service and an asset specialist, one of the first things I've always looked at with any business is field service. So
Yep.
It quite often gets left till last. But from a company perspective, that's one of our biggest selling points.
Great.
If we get that right, we can certainly leverage it off that against our competitors. We can go out there and sell that as a service, that we do to the best of our abilities.
So productivity gains, efficiencies, safety,
And
competitive
staff,
advantages.
Try and get staff to work in those areas, mate.
Oh yeah, which is a challenge. So
all
Gerry,
these little things help.
fascinating presentation.